I spent 15 years building the compliance architecture that protected my company from federal blacklisting, yet my boss treated me like an invisible relic. Mark strutted through the office every morning like he had personally invented corporate success, wearing loud blazers and barking nonsense buzzwords at terrified interns. While he threw glitter at whiteboards and paraded expensive consultants around, I stayed behind my desk ensuring our high-stakes defense contracts did not land us in prison. My name was never up in lights, but it was embedded into every legal framework we owned. That quiet precision was precisely why Mark hated me. Instead of confronting me directly, Mark began a slow campaign to erase my presence from the firm. He systematically cut me out of strategic project meetings, reassigned my interns, and conveniently forgot to include me on crucial compliance updates that I had authored myself. Soon after, he started presenting my proudest creation, an automated federal bid optimization algorithm, as his own personal breakthrough. I did not waste time arguing or making scene. Instead, I quietly logged every permission change, timestamped every deleted credit, and archived every file into a secure personal drive. What Mark failed to grasp was that my algorithm was not just a slick presentation tool for executive summits. It was a legally binding minefield. Deep within its core code lay Clause 12.9, a strict compliance protocol I had drafted to satisfy rigorous federal oversight rules. That specific clause was hard-coded directly to my personal government credentials. If anyone attempted to alter the system or submit federal proposals without my validated digital key, the entire bid engine would automatically render every proposal legally void. Mark assumed he could simply push me aside, confusing my silence for weakness. The breaking point arrived when Mark used company funds to fly his favorite team members to a lavish leadership retreat in Charlottesville. I was deliberately excluded from the trip, left behind to monitor the office while they drank fine wine and toasted to their own brilliance. While they were celebrating on the vineyard lawn, I walked into a quiet federal building for a prearranged meeting with Darlene, a senior officer at the Department of Federal Vendor Oversight. I presented the official registration documents for our active bids and asked her to verify the current officer of record on file. Darlene scanned the paperwork and confirmed that my name was the only authorized credential listed for the platform. She plainly explained that if the company attempted to alter the software or push bids without my explicit authorization, the platform's certification would instantly lapse, triggering a mandatory federal audit. I thanked her, politely collected my portfolio, and walked back out into the afternoon sun. Mark was busy posting group selfies and boasting about the future of the company, completely oblivious to the fact that the entire commercial foundation of his career was resting on a key locked inside my desk drawer. Upon returning from their retreat, Mark's inner circle launched a subtle whisper campaign to justify getting rid of me entirely. Suddenly, my 15 years of flawless regulatory precision were reframed by HR as a failure to adapt to modern workplace culture. They began sending me vaguely worded emails about my communication style, claiming my quiet dedication was somehow adversarial to team chemistry. I knew what they were doing, so I remained completely calm, documenting every fabricated complaint while they built their paper trail. Eventually, HR summoned me into a brief meeting and handed me a 3-page performance improvement plan filled with meaningless corporate jargon. They expected me to panic, argue, or break down, but I simply read through the document with a calm smile and signed my name on the line. They mistook my compliance for defeat, unaware that I was already finalizing my own exit strategy. That very afternoon, I uploaded a minor standardization patch to the system matrix, updating Clause 12.9 so that it strictly required my offline cryptographic token for any active bid generation. The trap sprung much faster than I anticipated when a senior federal procurement officer named Raymond issued a sudden audit request regarding a massive outstanding contract. Ray had noticed strange irregularities in the system's latest automated proposals and demanded immediate verification of our compliance credentials. Mark, knowing nothing about how the software actually functioned, sent back a generic marketing deck full of meaningless buzzwords. Ray responded within minutes, bluntly demanding the raw system logs and the official credential key for Clause 12.9. Panic rippled through the executive ranks as legal and IT desperately tried to figure out why the system was suddenly failing its compliance checks. Forward chains exploded with frantic messages as executives realized the active credential was hard-coded to a single employee who was currently being pushed out of the firm. Because the system had not received my verified digital signature for weeks, it had silently entered a passive state, invalidating every single federal proposal submitted during that time frame. The CEO joined the thread, demanding to know who held the active credential, but Mark had no answers to offer. Legal finally reached out to my inbox with an urgent request for a clarification meeting, but I deliberately left the message unread. I wanted the full weight of their arrogance to settle over them as they realized their golden project was collapsing under the weight of their own incompetence. I packed my personal files, saved the final system log confirming the structural failure, and quietly prepared for the annual defense procurement gala that evening. They had invited me weeks ago as a hollow formality, intending to quietly release me right after the event. I arrived at the grand ballroom dressed impeccably, carrying a sleek clutch that contained a single folded piece of paper. Inside was the certified copy of Clause 12.9 along with my active federal credential document. The room was filled with high-ranking military liaisons, corporate executives, and defense contractors, all enjoying expensive champagne while Mark held court near the center stage. I took my assigned seat at table 7, sitting directly beside the CEO, who greeted me with a brief, tense nod as the opening speeches began. Halfway through the dinner service, my phone buzzed softly on my lap with an automated notification from HR. The email coldly informed me that my position had been officially eliminated due to structural realignment, effective immediately, and that all my system access had been revoked. I did not react or make a scene. I simply turned the glowing screen toward the CEO so he could read the message for himself. He stared at the text, his fork pausing mid-air as the color slowly drained from his face. The CEO set his utensil down with deliberate slowness and turned to look at me, his voice barely audible over the chatter of the room. He asked me directly if Clause 12.9 was currently active in the system, and I calmly informed him that it was, explaining that every proposal generated without my active credential was now legally invalid under federal law. He closed his eyes for a fraction of a second, absorbing the realization that their biggest commercial account was officially dead in the water because they had fired the only person authorized to run it. Without saying another word to me, the CEO gave a faint, almost invisible gesture toward the edge of the room where our internal security team was posted. The head of security caught the signal instantly, stepping out from the shadows and walking toward Mark's table alongside an event coordinator. Mark was in the middle of laughing loudly with a group of investors when the coordinator tapped his shoulder and whispered into his ear. His smug smile flickered, replaced by a look of mild irritation as he stood up, likely assuming he was being called up for an unexpected award or press photo. Mark turned around only to find 2 stern security officers waiting for him near the side exit of the ballroom. The lead guard showed his badge, quietly explained the situation, and firmly directed Mark away from the main event toward a private holding room. Mark froze, his face turning pale as he glanced back toward our table, finally realizing that his grand career victory had just turned into a public execution. The CEO did not even bother to watch him leave, simply raising his glass to sip his water as the room moved on without Mark, completely oblivious to the silent catastrophe that had just taken place.